Officer, what brings you up here in the rain? Ah, yes. The night before I saw you in the hallway and reminded you you're a police officer. Wow. Elysium. You don't hear that term often. There was the usual ruckus, loud disco music. I can't say. Probably not. Sounded like you were flying solo. Oh, yes. Various artists. Ostentatious orchestrations prime among them. Oh, were huge where I come from. I was very young then, of course, like 7. Life gets hard, but we go on. It would appear so. At around 2 o'clock, the disco stopped and there was a change of pace. A slow, sad song started playing, like organ music on repeat. That went on for quite a while. Some of that time you were yelling along to it. That it doesn't matter anymore and that we're alone now. It was difficult to tell. The song itself was very quiet and soft, but you sounded like a wounded boar, sir. It was hard to understand what you were singing on top of it. Yes, it was very cool. Then you started screaming and trashed the place. A window was smashed, the tape player probably, the song stopped. And furniture too. A real destructathon. There was screaming. Then I think you passed out. There was. I think you screamed that you didn't want to be this type of animal anymore. I may have misheard, but it was sort of memorable. I went out afterwards. Everything was quiet by then, around 4 or 5, and that was it.
She feeds herself another cigarette.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? I love you did.
Fast, observantly, like an electronic printer.
Pleased to meet you, Lieutenant W. Freighter Dubois. I am glad to see a man of high qualification. The situation is precarious. What can I help you with, Lieutenant Freighter? More lessons in basic reality? Are you sure you're sure? Your colleague seemed adamant. Okay. The Pale is the most dominant geological feature of the world, Detective. The separative tissue between the islas. It is the inter-islary mass. Isla is a Messinian word for a continent of matter, enveloped on all sides by the Pale. Also, isolation, or landmass. We used to believe there was only one. In the last 4 centuries, we have discovered 7. Mundi, Seol, Samara, Ilmara, Grad, Katla, and this, Insulinde. An oceanic isla. It comprises mostly of water. Muindi is the largest, Katla the coldest, Insulinde the bluest. What can I say? Each is perishing and dear. Achromatic, odorless, featureless. The Pale is the enemy of matter and life. It is not like any other, or anything in the world. It is the transition state of being into nothingness. No, Detective. We're safe. It begins there, 6,000 kilometers to the north, and even more to the south, east, and west. You are in the middle of the Isla.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit opens up in your stomach.
An uproar of matter, darling. Rising into the Pale. Rolling. Evaporating even. A great vision. The area of transition between the world and the Pale is called porch collapse. Imagine a grey coronal mist, cold vapor marked by spores of an opportunistic microorganism, a mold that's adapted to grow at the edge of the unrest. It's the most disco thing you will ever see.
You hear your pulse rise. The air feels caustic and cold suddenly.
It's difficult to describe, or even measure. Something whose fundamental property is the suspension of properties. Physical, epistemological, linguistic. The further into Pale you travel, the steeper the degree of suspension. Right down to the mathematical. Numbers stop working. No one has yet passed the number barrier. It may be impossible. Oh, it is so difficult for us.
A squall of birds, hardware operating in the harbor. Firm, self-evident.
It is possible to force dimensions on the Pale. In modern times, we can even compress its latitude, bouncing radio waves from one end to the other, shortening the path. But it is still hard for humans to navigate the Pale without getting lost, or having our minds damaged. Extensively. Some say the damage stems from extreme sensory deprivation. Others argue that Pale somehow consists of past information that's degrading, that it's rarefied past, not rarefied matter. They call it the blend over of the self. The Pale does not only suspend the laws of physics, but also the laws of psychology, maybe history even. The human mind becomes over-radiated by past. It feels terrible.
Absolutely terrible. International standards strictly limit civilian travelers to 6 days of pale exposure per year. No, Lieutenant Dubois. I'm entreprenetic business class. I'm cleared and trained for 22 days of pale transit annually. Yes, carried in the hulls of airships. It's a horrific job. Automation will abolish it soon.
You should ask the pal driver about this. See what she says. That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't imagine.
Up to my gills, officer. Entreprenetics is the scientific study of the pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of grad. The study of the pale reaches back 6,000 years. The Pericarnassians called it the Western Plain. There are signs of pre-modern crossings. Successful navigation of the pale relies not just on technical know-how, but intensive psychological preparation. Some of these tactics have been known for thousands of years. Nothing. We remain powerless before the pale. The only real advance in pale transit is the speed with which an aerostatic craft can pierce it. Less exposure leads to less effects later. Hybrid airships, Detective. Conventional rotors or jet engines no longer add velocity after the point of reference for motion is suspended, once you've crossed from near pale to far pale. In essence, we throw them in and they come out the other end. If we throw them precisely. Then they don't. The pale outweighs reality 2 to 1. There is more pale than there is matter, and the ratio is slipping. What do you think, Detective? Oh no, Detective. It's not. One of the few measurable effects of the pale is that it is expanding at an unknown rate. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the pale will cover everything. But this sort of talk is mostly left to extremists. Most people, and indeed most private and government sector organizations, entire civilizations and religions even, find handy ways to ignore or downplay that knowledge. I suggest you do the same.
Off we go. You see the hanged man's mouth open.
One and all. They say pale is death, but for the universe.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
Yes, sweet reality. But before we do, tell me, Detective, is this the first time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Then tell me, what do you think of the pale? You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the investigation, Detective. If you don't know even this, then... I hope so. I truly do. If I may suggest, hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile...
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She must have a lot on the line here.
You have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time. Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else?
The lieutenant's door is closed. No response. Still, where is he? Isn't it party o'clock? Doesn't he want to go for a little drive? Anything to not face the hanged disco man yet. You hear the sound of a drawer closing, followed by the shuffling of feet.
Is that you, detective? To clear our heads from what? Sleep? Good night, detective.
The bed is still cold from the broken window, and not too inviting. But it's yours. You've earned it. It's not easy, but your bones are so tired from what feel like weeks of work on the case. You have to try. After what feels like hours, you feel you might be sleeping.
Thoughts, baby. A million little lights in the dark. You're one fine instrument, brother. All those faces and all those names. All that laughter and screaming and scheming around. Every corner and every street.
Recorded in you forever on Faraday.
No, you're spinning tapes at the discotheque. The great unceasing disco of the mind. The flash. The bang. The endless learning experience. On and on it goes. For untold hours. At the disco where you first asked her to dance. Rising. Rising. Above the dark curvature, the great wingspan of sleep, studded with stars.
Behold, there are millions of them down there. The first time, the last time, the smoke in her mouth, the plotted flowers, the faces turning, changing.
It's the world, Harry boy, and you're made of it. Every day you're out there, you make more of yourself from it. I'm afraid you can't be unmade now. You can never forget this shit.
Beautiful. It's stuck on loop, whirling, spitting out words and images.
You're the son of the world again. Harrister, a ceaseless agent. Picking up litter and old newspapers, collecting your little bubblegum wrappers and idiotic picture postcards. Meaningless keepsakes.
Reading your awful letters and recalling things, aren't you? The endless names of the world. An address book you are. The map of a city.
You'll go insane if you keep going like this. One more day, and you'll be in the loony bin. I just know you will. And for what, brother man?
For the working class. For the money, baby. For Revacol. Always and only Revacol.
Solving your little crossword puzzles. Doing your tasks. Crossing names off lists. Trying to become some sort of world detector. It won't make it okay. It won't put smoke back in her mouth. There he goes again. He's a real political animal, our Harry. He still doesn't see that it's the world changing around him.
He's got no idea what he's in for.
'Cause only love can break your your heart. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm is ringing, Harry. The disco circus goes on and on. You barely slept 3 hours last night.
Hey, Moneymouth. Indrak, the impeccable hustler provider of the 7th generation. It's showtime with Savvy. What's up? I'm worried about what's down, broke boy. I'm talking about your severe lack of money. No, you don't. You just keep muttering about your economic self-interest and not doing anything about it. Yeah, I heard you back there. What the hell was that? Did Ilona Wihuri Villaconi blame ghosts? How about Admiral Gustave Lestock? Samer Losser grew up in the coal mines of Guardi, eating dirt, and he still managed to make 55 billion real in his lifetime. So stop with the excuses. Listen, if you really want to make it in the big leagues, you need to reconceptualize your entire portfolio. Collecting tear and moaning about taxes is not going to cut it. You need to become a millionaire. Now, how do you become a millionaire? Those guys, they're all financially illiterate. Only Savvy here knows how to dazzle and embezzle money out of investors' pockets with the acrobatic prowess of a 4-time gold medalist in the Samaran Gymnastics Summer Games. Money is only one form of capital. Human relations are another. You're focusing on the wrong things. You could force a coin inside you. Any hole will do. Not many more definitive tests of a man's mettle than the fortune yawn. Of course you don't. You've never even been close to a sum with more than 3 zeros. Let's face it, you've been on a years-long losing streak. But Savvy's got your back. Savvy's going to book you a charter flight with 80 birds of prey on board to a land where the streets are paved with Krugerrands and fixed income securities. You'll try again, but this time with money. You'll win her back. Are you in? The spirit of ultra-liberalism, your charm, your spin, your winning hand. Stop grumbling. It's time to move. Are you in or are you out? Attaboy. Welcome to the final grind. Here we operate with money on a much higher level than the ordinary citizen. We feed it back into the machine. Stop saving. Start spending. Become a patron. Let's start by getting you into the lucrative art market to diversify your assets and increase your ROI. Speaking of which, know any artists? You're right. She has the poise of a struggling artist. Very tangible. You can feel the poverty on her. Plus, she has paint. Go and support her like the state never could. Everyone must know that you're a big fucking shark around here.